Jon Snow spin-off. Snow finally returns to Game of Thrones. Imagine this. The icy winds of the north are howling once again. The wall, scarred but still standing, looms like a reminder of all that was lost and all that was fought for. And there, walking across the snow, cloaked in furs, haunted by his past yet driven by something deeper, Jon Snow. The man who once knew nothing, the man who became king in the north, who was betrayed, who killed the woman he loved, and who disappeared into the wild. For years, fans have been wondering, what happened to him after Game of Thrones ended? Was his story truly over, or was there still more to be told? Well, now it's official. After years of rumors, speculation, and whispers in the shadows, HBO is bringing Jon Snow back in the long-awaited spin-off series, fittingly titled, Snow. And this isn't just a rumor. This is happening. Kit Harington himself has confirmed his involvement. George R.R. Martin has hinted at the project's depth, and insiders are already calling this one of the boldest moves HBO has made since the original series ended. But what does this mean? Why Jon Snow? Why now? And most importantly, what kind of story could possibly continue after the bittersweet, divisive ending of Game of Thrones? Today, we're diving deep into everything we know, everything we can expect, and why this return to Westeros might just reignite the passion that millions of fans have been waiting for. First, let's rewind for a moment. Game of Thrones ended in 2019, and to say that the finale was controversial would be an understatement. Some loved the tragic, bittersweet ending. Others felt betrayed, frustrated that years of build-up ended in chaos, with Daenerys Targaryen turning tyrant, Bran Stark becoming king, and Jon Snow being banished beyond the wall. Jon's final scene was almost poetic, leading the free folk into the true north, a place of freedom, away from thrones and crowns. It was open-ended, yes, but many fans thought that was it. Jon's watch was over, except it wasn't. Behind the scenes, Kit Harington never fully closed the door on Jon. In fact, he admitted in interviews that Jon's ending left him emotionally broken. Think about it. Jon killed the woman he loved, lost his family to politics, and was exiled after saving the entire realm from destruction. That's not closure. That's trauma. And according to Kit himself, the spin-off Snow was born out of the idea that Jon's story wasn't done, that in many ways, it was only just beginning. So what is Snow actually about? While HBO is keeping the plot under tight wraps, early reports suggest that the show will pick up immediately after the events of Game of Thrones. Jon, now stripped of titles and honors, will be wandering beyond the wall with the free folk. But here's the thing, the north beyond the wall is not empty. There are still dangers, there are still mysteries, and let's not forget, magic never truly dies in Westeros. The White Walkers may have been defeated, but the forces that birthed them are ancient and could still linger. Could Jon's journey take him into the unknown lands we never saw in Game of Thrones? Could we finally see what lies far beyond the frozen wilderness? One of the most fascinating possibilities is that Snow could explore Jon's true identity as Aegon Targaryen. Remember, Jon is the legitimate son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, which technically makes him the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Even though Bran is king, Jon's bloodline can't just be ignored. How would the people of Westeros react if Jon's survival and lineage became public knowledge? Would factions rally behind him, seeing him as a more rightful ruler than Bran? And perhaps more importantly, would Jon even want that responsibility? Or is he doomed to forever run from the crown? Another angle is Jon's inner torment. Think about it. Jon killed Daenerys. He betrayed the woman who loved him, the queen who believed she was destined to break the wheel. That's not something you walk away from. Even if Jon believes he did the right thing, the guilt, the nightmares, the haunting memories, they're going to eat at him. And if Snow chooses to focus on Jon's psychological journey, we might be looking at one of the darkest, most character-driven spin-offs HBO has ever attempted. But what about the supporting cast? Will Snow bring back other familiar faces from Game of Thrones? While nothing is officially confirmed, there are whispers. Fans are speculating that Tormund Giantsbane, Jon's loyal friend and free folk warrior, will return. It makes sense. Tormund was with Jon in the finale, heading north together. Their bond was strong, forged in fire and battle. And let's be honest, Tormund's humor and wild charm would balance Jon's brooding personality perfectly. Then there's Arya Stark. Remember, her story ended with her sailing west of Westeros, into the unknown. Could her path somehow intersect with Jon's in Snow? The idea of Arya returning, older, wiser, and possibly changed by her adventures, is incredibly tempting. And let's not forget, Maisie Williams herself has said she's open to reprising Arya if the story feels right. And then, there's Ghost. Yes, Ghost, Jon's loyal direwolf, the companion who stood by him through thick and thin. Fans were heartbroken when Jon barely gave Ghost a proper farewell in the final season, but then relieved when Ghost rejoined Jon in the finale. In Snow, Ghost could finally get the spotlight he deserves, symbolizing loyalty, survival, and Jon's connection to something greater than himself. But beyond the characters we know, Snow has the opportunity to introduce brand new lands, cultures, and conflicts. The far north has never been fully explored in either the show or the books. What if Jon discovers entire civilizations living beyond the Wall? What if there are new magical threats that even the Night King never touched? Westeros is huge, and George R.R. Martin has always hinted at unexplored mysteries. Snow could be the chance to expand the universe in ways we've never imagined. Now let's talk tone. Game of Thrones was known for its political intrigue, its shocking betrayals, and its massive wars. But Snow might feel different. This isn't about kings or thrones anymore, it's about survival, identity, and redemption. Think of it as a more intimate, more character-focused journey, set against the backdrop of an unforgiving, mystical land. It could lean heavily into themes of isolation, grief, and what it truly means to live after you've lost everything. But don't mistake intimacy for lack of spectacle. HBO knows the expectations here. They know fans want the epic battles, the stunning visuals, and the jaw-dropping twists that made Game of Thrones legendary. The challenge will be balancing Jon's personal story with the scale of the world. And if they get it right, Snow could very well become the show that redeems the controversial ending of Game of Thrones. Of course, no discussion about Snow would be complete without mentioning George R.R. Martin. The man whose book started it all has confirmed he's been involved in the development of the series. That's huge. One of the biggest criticisms of Game of Thrones was that once the show ran out of book material, it started to lose its way. With Martin directly involved this time, fans can feel a little more confident that Snow will remain true to the lore and spirit of the world he created. So here's the big question: why Jon Snow? Why bring him back instead of creating an entirely new spin-off? The answer is simple. Jon Snow is the heart of Game of Thrones. His journey, from bastard to Lord Commander, from king in the north to reluctant hero, was the backbone of the entire saga. Fans connected with him deeply because he wasn't perfect. He was flawed, torn between duty and love, haunted by honor but forced into impossible choices. His story resonates because it feels human, even in a world of dragons and magic. And let's not forget Kit Harington himself. His performance as Jon Snow was iconic, and it's hard to imagine anyone else carrying the torch of Westeros into a new era. When people think of Game of Thrones, they think of Jon Snow. Bringing him back is not just a creative choice, it's a strategic one. HBO knows that if any character can pull millions of fans back into the fold, it's Jon Snow. Now, what about the risks? Because